I'm investigative journalist Molly Barrows. For years, I've covered the stories that made headlines in Northwest Florida and all along the Gulf Coast. Murders, missing persons, and mysteries of all kinds. These cases are far from over for many victims because the full story has yet to surface. Join me for Gulf Coast Confidential, where I dive into the saltier side of the South and expose the lies, greed, and corruption that often weighs down the truth. It's time to turn the tide and get a shot at justice. Hey y'all, I'm Molly Barrows, and welcome to the Gulf Coast Confidential podcast, where we cover some pretty scandalous crimes and cases that bubble up right here in Northwest Florida. You know we do, Pam.
Yes, we do.
And we cover some that bubble up in other places as well, and this is one of those what the feezy cases that we like to cover here on Gulf Coast Confidential, because again, so many of the things that happen elsewhere we can relate to here, and I certainly know you can. You've experienced violent crime in your own family. For those who aren't familiar, Pam Hill is a pharmacist and a victim's advocate because she has experienced violent crime in her own family. Her sister was killed by her own son, her nephew, on Christmas Eve of 2013. So it's hard to believe that's coming up on 11 years.
11 years, yeah. And it's it never goes away. There's times when I can appease and just kind of be gentle, but even good things that pop up. You know, like I'll think about something Sharon would have said during something, and it makes me smile, and it makes me cry at the same time.
Of course. And it's hard to grieve and move on, as well as so many people tell people to do who are grieving, which is kind of annoying in and of itself. But also because we continue to follow Brandon's case. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity. And that in and of itself is a story, and we've covered it on numerous other episodes. But yeah, he's got another hearing that's coming up on August, where it looks like the state of Florida is recommending his release from basically Florida State Hospital in Chattahoochee, where they keep the criminally insane, to a group home. So it's top of mind. Just be on the lookout for that. That hearing will be coming up in August. We're also continuing to follow the Dr. Ben Brown case. I know that a lot of people are interested in that one. That's another homegrown Gulf Coast case, just like the Brandon Adelot case, who murdered his mother. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity for murder, but he'd been charged with murder because he just brutally attacked her on Christmas Eve. And then Ben Brown also has a hearing coming up on his negligent homicide charges. That's going to be in July 11th. So we'll be following up on that as well. But in the meantime, what we're talking about today is another Florida case out of Winter Park in the Orlando area. And this is just heartbreaking. It reminds me a little bit of that Apple River case that we covered, because there was video involved in that. You could see the altercation that was building between the man who basically, in his words, acted in self-defense when he stabbed some teenagers that had surrounded him and were falsely accusing him of molesting, going after children on this, river. But this video really puts you there. And in this case, I feel like this video really puts you there too. This episode is called Zip to Death, the Sarah Boone suitcase, if you get it, the Sarah Boone suitcase, because that's basically how she killed her boyfriend. She's on trial for it now, February 24th, 2020. Jorge Torres Jr., 42-year-old American man, died in Winter Park, Florida, after prosecutors say, zipped him into a suitcase where he suffocated to death. His girlfriend, Sarah Boone, 42 at the time, videotapes the whole thing, even turns her phone over to police. She was arrested the very next day, charged with second-degree murder. And just like a lot of these defendants that we hear in these cases, she immediately makes it all about herself instead of, ever taking responsibility.
Yeah, it always is with her. And the way this starts out, and did you play hide and seek when you were little?
Of course.
I did too. So they're playing hide and seek.
Which is strange in and of itself.
Right. Drunken hide and seek in a townhouse. Where are you going to hide? All right. So they've got this going on. So they're playing drunken hide and seek. They said they've had a good day. She said, we were having a good day. Typically we fight and we go to jail and we batter each other and all that kind of great stuff. So here we start with this. So she said, we were having a good day, because she is a brassy, pushy, bully, obnoxious, unlikable, excellent RBF, just resting biatch face. She just pushes and pushes, so unlikable. But in her mind, let me just start something here with you. These are things that Sarah Boone has said about herself. She goes, I am a straight A student. I am an outstanding mother, and I excel at everything I do.
Even killing people.
Right, apparently. But she wants to make sure everybody knows that. So she's pushy. We've got all this. I mean, this bullying, every story we've done lately, bullying is somewhere in there. Bullying people till you kill them, or bullying people till they, can't take care of themselves.
Right.
So we got this drunken hide and seek going on while they had just been painting, doing arts and crafts and puzzles and stuff, because she said Jorge gets nervous easily. So she said, I am trying to keep him busy, and I'm trying to make sure that he has something to do so he doesn't beat me or I beat him. I mean, it's just so trashy. But
sounds like he just was in it for the sex.
Maybe.
And then it just turned into something pretty awful.
Right, or maybe because,
why else would he stick around and put up with that, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
Some people need someone to help them a little bit with life, to keep them, go to work. I can't imagine this. Go to work, go take a bath, go pick up your kids, go do this. There's some people that are like that.
When I was in my 20s, I lived in a fourplex, and I remember being good friends with one of the other single women that lived there, and she often helped one of the single men that lived in another apartment because he was older, his mother had passed, and she'd been the one to tell him what to do. You need to make your doctor's appointment. He was, I think, on disability or retired, but he didn't have a job to go to, but he still had things he needed to do, and he needed somebody to tell him what to do. So I guess there are people that do need that.
There are. And if you're doing it out of kindness and this, that, and the other, but just to run somebody, which is typically what people do, because that's intoxicating. Being a narcissist and bullying people, that is a drug of choice for a lot of people. You get that same high you get with like a amphetamine or an adrenaline rush. So we've got all that going on. They're playing hide and seek. Grown-ups playing hide and seek. So she goes, well, they thought it'd be funny. This would be funny to lock him or zip him in the suitcase. Now, I keep trying to find out how much Jorge Torres Jr. weighed. I can't find it anywhere, but I can look at him and see they're about the same size, Sarah and Jorge. Because I'm thinking, you couldn't make me get in a suitcase.
No.
But then I have watched SVU, Law and Order, and I have watched Lifetime, and I see people take their tie off and give it to this person and get tied up on the bed or something and think something good's going to happen. I'm like, y'all watch these shows.
You've only seen that on SVU, ma'am? Is that what you're saying?
I ain't seen it in real life. Have you?
I know. Well, I guess I'll plead the fifth on that one. But no, certainly not. And I don't want to be tied up, and I don't want to tie anybody else up. But I certainly, as a grown person, don't want to, this guy better. That's so sad.
It is. So he's in the suitcase, and she said, the suitcase is downstairs. She's telling us this, because it is at the end. He's in the suitcase, and so she says she goes upstairs to take a shower. And so, because he's hiding there, she's going to hide in the shower. And then she decides, I'm tired, I'm going to go to bed. Well, there's a part that you and I and James just listened to, a video of Jorge in the suitcase. And he is asking Sarah, he's like, Sarah, the suitcase is talking, and the suitcase is pushing up a little bit, and it's wiggling a little bit. At first, when I heard it, I thought someone was in my house. It was that soft of a talk. I almost thought it was a lady's voice.
And it's just so unsettling to watch that video, because there she is sitting there with the camera framed on this suitcase. She's clearly just across the room. It's maybe, 10 feet away. And you just hear this voice say, Sarah. And she never changes. Like, it's not like there's no movement of the camera. It's not like she's having any hesitancy, any second thoughts. She just keeps this camera rolling basically while this guy's suffocating and calling for help. And then she starts dropping F-bombs. It's F you. How do you think I feel? This is how I feel when you do this to me. This is how I feel when you blah, blah. And so he goes, I can't breathe. I can't breathe, sweetheart. I can't breathe. And he goes, anyway, it's heartbreaking. You've got to be pretty cold. And it's clear too, hearing her responses to him, that she's slurring her words. She definitely appears to be impaired.
Right.
And that's a weird game of hide and go seek when you put the person that you're seeking in the suitcase.
I know where you are. Let's play hide and seek in a suitcase, and I'll go upstairs and go to bed.
He must have been drunk too, I guess.
They were both drunk. They had a bottle of wine, and every time she's questioned about stuff, she gets mad at the police, and she tries to run them like a you-know-what, and they don't let her, and so she's getting mad with them. But she would would not say she was drunk. She said, I had been drinking, and she kept throwing the words in there, not intentionally, every time they would confront her on something. And she just thought she could wear them down, because apparently that's how she's done every man in her life, just worn them down. And I've seen men and women like that just keep on and on and on, and people just find, oh gosh, just get away.
Sure.
You know, but this guy, he probably doesn't have a place to live. You know, people get themselves in some situations.
Yes.
So here's what happens. All right, so she goes upstairs, takes her 11-hour nap. He is in the suitcase. He has begged her for his life. He has, like I said, pushed up. So she goes upstairs, and she's got to sleep this drunk off, I reckon. So she comes back down the next day. And
well, because she kicked him down the stairs, right?
Well,
the suitcase.
We don't know that yet.
Okay.
No, the suitcase is downstairs. So she says she comes downstairs and took him out of the suitcase because he was unresponsive. And her thing, every time people would say, why didn't you let him out when he asked to be unzipped out? She said, he could have got out. My God, I left a 2-finger space in there. And then she said, I unzipped it myself with 1 finger. Girl, you're standing on the outside of the suitcase and you're unzipping it, standing up. He's inside, imagine, folded over with his chest to, his chin to his chest, probably his knees up like the fetal position.
He can't move.
He cannot move. He cannot breathe. You hear him, everything, when he says Sarah, it's not Sarah, it's Sarah, Sarah. You know, it's that kind of thing. And he even calls her babe. But she just keeps on and on and on. So she gets panicky and runs down the street just a little ways to get her ex-husband, Brian, to come up there because she doesn't know what to do. So he said, you need to call 911. So they call 911 and the police get there. And so they go and they take him to autopsy and stuff. And they find out he has contusions and bruises on his face and head and around his neck and on his hands and scratches on his back. And they said, were y'all fighting? And she said, no, we weren't. But what they found out through all that, basically, they think that he was in the suitcase at the top of the stairs near the shower in the bedroom. And she just got mad and kicked him down the stairs because the neighbors next door heard a thud, 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 thud. So that's him coming down the stairs in the suitcase is what they say. And they may be right. So he just barely...
The video shows the suitcase basically
at the
close
door.
to the bottom of the stairs.
Right. I think she put it there because she had some big elaborate story. Like, she tells these big elaborate stories and people just yawn and go to sleep, I reckon. But she says, it's down there because my son, Lucas, we wanted to give away some of his clothes, so we thought we'd bring him down here, put him in the suitcase, get it all ready, leave the suitcase by the door, and give the whole suitcase with the clothes away. That don't even sound right.
Weird. No, and it sounds like he was, if she kicked him down the stairs in the suitcase, he was still calling for help.
Yeah.
He was obviously still alive, so he was in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, barely.
She was enjoying that.
Yeah,
Like.
She doesn't even remember making the videos. Because when the police said, here's how smarty pants she is, the police like, give us your phone. She's like, fine. She handed them the evidence. I suggest that she go sit at the prosecution's table because Sarah can't get out of Sarah's way.
We do see that with a lot of these defendants. They're just so in their own world and their own perception of reality that they insist that how they see it. And if they yell enough and cause enough disruptions that they can convince people that their side is the truth.
Right. Well, look what we just went through with Daryl Brooks. He did that sideshow and everything.
Parade crasher.
Right. So we got suitcase Sarah, not intentional Sarah. I wasn't drunk Sarah. I'm good at everything, Sarah. This ain't fair, Sarah.
Well, I did think that was interesting that, because you did listen to her interview with police, and that was some of the first things that she said in that sort of brassy tone, like, I was a straight A student. I'm a good mother. I excel at everything I do. Oh, well, then why aren't we talking to you?
Yeah,
okay, well, let's let you go. I mean, that seems to be the implication there.
Well, that's work for her. It's work for her with men. It's work for her with her family. I mean, thank goodness she has a decent ex-husband that's the father of her child. He probably moved close to her so he could watch her.
With the child.
Right. Because, people sometimes, men get a bad rap because they're like, only mothers can do right by children. That is not true. Thank goodness that Lucas has Brian. So, Sarah Boone's out there being interviewed by the police and stuff, and she likes to drink her Dr. Pepper and smoke her cigarettes. So she tells them, look, I'm thirsty, so I'm going to go in the house because I left my Dr. Pepper and my cigarettes on the kitchen bar. They're like, no, you're not. So this is where this delusion comes on. It's a crime scene. No boundaries for her. So here we are with her, world's biggest narcissist or world's biggest Karen. And so her drug of choice is herself. So this happened in 2020, I believe. And so here we are 5 years later, still dealing with this lady because she has fired 8 attorneys.
That's crazy. Yeah, she's another one that wanted to represent herself.
Well, she wanted attorneys, and she wants them to be nice to her. Well, she wasn't nice to Jorge, but she finds everything in the world wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with these public defenders.
They're just telling her something she doesn't want to hear.
Right. Well, they're not her emotional support dog.
Right.
You know, they're not there just to make her feel good and sit with her and be with her 24 hours a day. Well, she hit one of them, and she calls them doofuses and duds. I mean, she just talks so ugly to everybody. But again, it is what's worked for her. So when I see this out in society, or when people try to be that way to me, like even at the pharmacy, think they're going to roll in there and because they want to tell me their husband's mad and he's going to come up to the store and do it. I'm like, fine. Right. The police will be right here.
And they can be mad. Right. That's all right. I still have rules and laws to follow.
Y'all do that at y'all's house, and don't be telling everybody all your stuff. It ain't happening in the pharmacy. It ain't happening elsewhere, or maybe, but not, especially give me a warning. But so Sarah Boone had been Mirandized and everything, but she still kept talking. She still kept firing lawyers. So currently, right now, there's a lawyer named Patricia Cashman, and she's a lady. She's got 30 or 40 years of experience. She's probably was hating life when the judge assigned her that. I would be. So she tells the judge, we have irreconcilable differences, almost like a divorce, you know.
That's funny.
Yeah, and the judge goes, well, what's happening, Miss Boone? She goes, well, she doesn't do this for me. Basically, she doesn't kiss my tail, you know, and won't get up there and go, she didn't do it intentionally. You know, she can't lose her license dealing with this crazy.
No.
So what the judge does, Cashman goes, I have already put 20 hours of work in here. And in lawyer talk, that's a lot. You know, that's half a week anyway in regular work. But I mean, that's probably interrupted and doing an hour here, that, and the other. I mean, the way their work is scheduled and billed and stuff is different than ours. So I've already done 20 hours with her. I've accepted so many collect calls from her at any time and every time of the day that I won't be reimbursed for. Plus, she keeps walking out of our meetings. So what's she to do? She said, I want off this case. And I know she's probably thinking in there, I just want to have a good summer. I don't want to be dealing with this knucklehead. So the judge finally tells her, he says, you are going to represent yourself because we've given you 8 attorneys, and that's what we're doing. October 7th is your trial date. Well, in between, she decided, well, I'm so eloquent and smart, I'm the smartest person in the world. She wrote Judge Michael Kranick a 58-page letter, and in there she kept saying, I don't understand. She gave him the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. She gave him a map of the United States, and they all have they all got stars on them. And this is where my fans are, you know, on there.
Oh my gosh. Well, it definitely gives you a peek into how her mind works.
Yes. And then she's like, and my last fan inquiry was from South Korea. You know, notice that. So she said, my lawyer's snotty. You know, she even hit one of her lawyers before. And so
sounds like there's some serious domestic violence with this lady.
Oh, yeah. She's a bully. And so basically this letter, 58-page letter said, it's not fair.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that for us.
Yeah.
Maybe you should zip it like you did to your boyfriend.
Yeah. So, I mean,
zip your mouth.
Right. We're thinking about that. And I mean, I think about people being put in a suitcase. I mean, seriously.
Gosh, that's such a nightmare. And just the panic that would, I can't believe he didn't panic. I guess it's because he couldn't move and couldn't, and he knew. And it sounds like too, I'm guessing that, you know, based on the wounds that were on him, the fact that she hit her attorney, they must have had some sort of toxic relationship. It wouldn't surprise me if they did, I should say, that maybe she was abusive to him and maybe even pushed him to the point where he was abusive to her. Maybe he grew up in a similar situation. But either way,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it also crossed my mind listening to his tone that he knew that it really wasn't, going to do any good to beg or plead. He had to try to keep it even keeled.
Save his energy because he knew, because he's been with her. He knows how she is. But that's why they're trying to have such a good day, I guess. But because she was
What a great day until she zipped him up in the suitcase.
Well, when you watch 2 hours of this crazy at the police station with these police, and I love the policewoman and the policeman, because the policeman from the back looks like Mr. Big off of Sex and the City, not in the face so much, but in the back. And he just kept on telling her, she's like, basically, well, I got questions for y'all. Basically. And he's like, ask them. And so he's sitting there. Every time she'd say something, he'd go, George is still dead. So, I mean, he's coming at her.
Kept it.
Right. He kept it on her.
On point.
Yeah. And so they came and they arrested her. And she didn't, she said, y'all have lied to me. I mean, she's just the victim all the way through. But this good day turns into Jorge being basically what they said the cause of death was positional asphyxiation. And what that means is the position of your body is what basically strangled you. And that happens when your chin is down to your chest, you're sitting like an egg in his case, and his ribs couldn't expand, his lungs couldn't expand, he's having to keep his body tight, and his neck is like this, and he's rolled down the stairs, and I think, this is just me, there was a baseball bat near the suitcase in the downstairs. I think she beat him with that baseball bat too, and because they said that there was the way some of the bruises and things were, that the positional asphyxiation could have been weight being on your body.
So she sat on him.
I think so, or beat him with the bat. It's what I think. I can't prove that. That's what I think. But, we have to be careful with this chin to the chest type thing, because that can also happen in babies that are sitting back here in a car seat.
Yes.
We say, oh, that's sweet. They fell asleep like that. And it's like, no, get their little chin back up. Wake them up if you have to.
Yes.
But what a horrible death, a sweaty death, 11 hours while she's sleeping because she said she went to bed because she was tired.
Golly, what a nightmare. I know. And I do wonder, did she intend to kill him, or was it one of those things that her meanness and her mean streak and her hatefulness just got the better of her?
I think she meant to keep him in compliance, and I think she meant, obviously he's begging. She doesn't care. He's begging for his life, but she doesn't even remember it. I think she's going to use a battered partner defense, that she was so battered and I hate him so much, but I'm going to act like I love him, or he's hurt me so much. And I had it's almost hard to think this stuff. I have so much glee watching him suffer, so that's got to be
get out of the
something.
Relationship before it gets to that point.
I mean, seriously, I was kind of joking about like the tying people up and stuff, but who in their right mind thinks that's going to end well?
I don't know. I mean, that's just a nightmare. And I can't imagine that the sex was worth it.
It probably wasn't, but it ain't for us to say.
Right.
But,
that the relationship
he's not
would be
here.
worth it.
So October 7th, because Sarah Boone, she is something else. And I guarantee you, this crazy will not disappoint.
Yeah, it's going to be another circus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pam, thank you so much for breaking that down for us. Another Florida case. They don't fail to disappoint either.
Florida girl.
Florida woman. All right. Well, thanks, Pam.
You're
and thank you for joining us. That's it for Zip to Death, the Sarah Boone suitcase. We appreciate you joining us on this episode of Gulf Coast Confidential. I'm your host, writer, and producer, Molly Barrows, with co-host and researcher, Pam Hill. And a big thanks, as always, to our director, editor, and production engineer, James Roy. And remember, you can listen to more of our Gulf Coast Confidential conversations wherever you get your favorite podcast. You can also watch on the Gulf Coast Confidential YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe.
Subscribe.
All right. We'll see you next time.